Okay.
There we go. We're live.
Yay,
All right.
we're alive.
Girls, yes, barely after conference week, barely.
Oh, I know. For me, it was IEP week and progress report week, so it was insane.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's always good to meet with families. You know, it's like the best thing ever, but it just makes for long days, you know?
Yeah, very long days.
How many days do you do of conferences, Stephanie?
We have one late night, but I spread it out throughout the week just to make sure. I mean, I am 100%. I need to get every single family in there, and I will make the weekend phone calls. I chase one of them into the parking lot. Her email wasn't working, a phone wasn't working, and my small talk didn't work. So one day I went out with my conference schedule and I got her in.
That's good.
I've done that with a parent that the email didn't work and the phone numbers didn't work, and we needed her to come for an IEP meeting. And I just, she came into the office because her little boy was late, and I leapt out of my chair and followed her down the hall.
Right.
You gotta get them when you
can. Did you look over Kimberly's feedback for?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Right.
And I definitely think it'll be faster just because now we know what we're doing.
Right.
But I'd also just like to keep it faster, personally. Yes. I mean, I love talking to you ladies and stuff, but
I know, me too.
We do get to do this, every week for several weeks, so we can spread it out a little, as you were saying, Stephanie.
Perfect. All right, so let's see how week 2 or week 3 goes.
All right. Well, I'm the director today, so I'm bringing our little case study.
Yay.
Okay.
And this is a little friend of mine. We're going to call him Sam. And this was a group session, but one of the kids has been dismissed and another one was absent. So it was much easier to record this one because it was just 2 kids and I could kind of signal the other one to cool it and not interrupt. Sam came to us last year from a school in Arkansas. I believe he was born in Mexico. His family's from there. Home language is Spanish. He's the oldest of 3 kids, so kind of the burden for English language learning has been on him. Like he hasn't had older siblings to imitate. Unfortunately, Sam has a language disorder, and so he has trouble learning English and Spanish. When he first came to us, I tested him in both languages, and his scores in both languages were low, which tells me it's a disorder and not just a difference.
Right.
Let's see. He was retained in kindergarten because they noticed learning problems way back then, as far as like sound identification, letter identification, those sorts of things. So he was held back. So he's old for a 3rd grader. He's 9 years, 4 months, but he's in 3rd grade. He's in LEP 3 as far as his WIDA scores go, which is a step up from a year ago when he was still NEP. So that's good, because a lot of times we've noticed what happens with the kids with language disorders is they don't really progress through the WIDA levels because of the language disorder, and sometimes they even go backwards. So when we have a kid who has been put into special ed for a language disorder and we start seeing them climb in WIDA, we start to question whether they really do have a language disorder. Now, LEP3 is not something to get super excited about at this point, but if he were like an FEP5 or something, I'd be going, I'm not so sure you actually have a language disorder. Maybe you were misidentified long ago.
Right.
Anyway, so he also has a stuttering impairment. So in the sample, you hear a lot of restarts and a lot of fillers like. Interestingly, when I first met him, he was the little guy who, when he accidentally let a word slip in Spanish in one of our therapy sessions one day, he gasped and put his hands over his mouth. And I was so sad that was his reaction. Home language. And you know, I do have very limited Spanish, you know, things like colors and animals and foods. But, you know, I try to use that when I'm working with kids whose home language is Spanish, and he never really responded to that. But this year, another kiddo in our group also speaks Spanish at home, and she really responds when I speak in Spanish. Like one day I translated the title of a story, and then she wanted me to read the whole thing in Spanish. And I'm like, oh, honey, that is way beyond what I can hear. But because she's comfortable speaking Spanish in the session, he has become comfortable speaking Spanish in the session. So the other thing that you hear in the sample, besides the stuttering, is you also hear code switching. And he's almost more fluent when he's relaxed and just code switches rather than trying so hard to come up with that English word.
Right.
So between those two things, the sample can be a little tough. I tried to keep the other kid quiet, but at the end you can hear his voice, and I'm like, it's not your turn, stop.
So, Katrina, when you gave him the test and you said in both he didn't do well in English or Spanish, you have a Spanish test for him?
A Spanish version, yeah.
That you give him, or he listens?
We give it through the translator, and so I supervise the translator.
Okay.
To make sure it's administered in a standardized way. And I score what I can score, and then like the stuff where she has to write down what he says, she has to do that because I can't, you know, write it down in Spanish, especially if they're making mistakes.
Right.
So I score what I can score, and then, you know, she writes down stuff, and then I score what she wrote down. We usually have to collaborate afterwards to kind of talk about what would be an appropriate score for his responses. Anyway, the task for this, I had originally started with picture cards, and I wanted him to describe. And I do have some recordings of that, but they're so scripted that he really wasn't making a lot of errors because, you know, I would ask him, you know, tell me about this picture or what's that? And he would give me a couple of words. And then when I would cue him with, tell me in a sentence, then he would produce a very scripted, 100% correct sentence. And I'm like, okay, this is not working. But then all of a sudden, randomly, he started talking about his brother drinking milk. And I noticed that the way he was describing it, he was making some errors. So I was like, wait, hold on a second. I pushed record again, and I'm like, okay, tell me about your brother again. And then he started this whole narrative. So this wasn't really a task. This was free conversation because in the task, he kind of knows, and he slows down, and it's all in English, and it sounds very stilted. It's also correct, which is not useful for this. So just turning the recorder back on and saying, okay, tell me about your brother again. This is what I got. So it's a pretty short sample, but I think it gives us some things to work with.
It does.
Do you have any questions about him?
No, I think you were very detailed.
One of the things that they wanted to know was about the social emotional piece. As far as, I mean, last year he had that thing where he was kind of embarrassed about speaking Spanish, and that's really gone away. He's very eager to please. He's social. He's polite. You know, if you get after him, he's like, oh, okay, I'm sorry. You know, he's not a bully. He's not, even his stutter doesn't seem to bother him. He's just very relaxed.
So does he like just have conversations with kids?
Yeah.
Just, it's not, he's not like holding back or
nope.
Just, good. That's good.
Nope. So that makes it so he hasn't developed a lot of, like some of the physical characteristics of stuttering, you know, where his face gets all tense or his eye twitches or, you know, he pounds his leg until the word comes out or whatever. He doesn't have any of that. He just kind of stutters. And according to his family, he's been stuttering since he started talking. And he didn't start talking till he was 3, which is really late. So,
okay.
Yeah, so that's where he's at now. And I see him twice a week for 30 minutes.
Wow, 30 minutes. That's good.
Yeah, I mean, he's in a group, so he doesn't get all of the attention, but,
right.
You know.
Right, at least he's in there a couple times.
Yeah, and we're working on his language and on his disfluency. So he's got goals in both of those areas.
Okay. All right. I'm the grammarian. Should I go next, or just are you okay?
Yeah, I think you tell us about adjectives and adverbs.
Okay. So the adjectives, an adjective is a word that describes a noun or a pronoun, and then the adverb is a word that describes either a verb, and then that's a hard one for me, or another, or an adjective or another adverb.
Right.
Boy, that was really hard. And so the questions that an adverb answers are which one, how many, how much, and what kind.
Uh-huh.
Do I need to talk about the possible slots? Not really, right?
Probably not. Can I interrupt for just a second here?
Do I need to do it differently? I'm not sure if I.
No, I think that's fine.
Ellen, you're doing great.
I actually printed this out and used those questions trying to elicit language about those pictures, and it just wasn't working. But that was my idea. And I was going to do this with a fourth grader too, and then the fourth graders disappeared and I couldn't find them, so we ended up with my third grade friend. Anyway, sorry.
No, that's okay. Okay, in English, adjectives have two general locations in a sentence. They either precede nouns, or they come after to be or a linking verb. So that's hard for me to remember. This is good for me because I'm learning all of this. Common ESL errors are misplacement after nouns, making adjectives plural, wrong comparative form, and lack of adjective endings. And I didn't really realize that articles were part of adjectives.
I didn't either. I've always thought of them as a separate category.
So a and the, and then no article used. And so we have possessive articles that include my, your, his, her, its, our, and their. And common errors there are that they confuse his and her. And then also attempting a plural form of a noun, like ours, books. And then demonstrative adjectives, which include this, that, these, and those. And common errors there are using this or that with a plural noun, like that, numbers, and then using these or those with a singular noun, like these, woman, and then using these or those with a non-count noun, like those, information. And then there's also quantity adjectives that include numbers and words like many, much, a few, and a little. And much is, I believe, or many is one of those that is overused a lot. Some common errors are omitting a plural marker, like many, animal, and using a wrong quantity word for a count or non-count noun, like many, money, or much, ideas. And there's also descriptive adjectives, which include beautiful, stormy, green, and I think I was more familiar with those, or remember, common errors are place descriptive adjectives after nouns, like a book interesting, or using a noun as a descriptive adjective, like you have a beauty baby, and using a wrong suffix to create an adjective, like stormed weather. And the most common error is placing descriptive adjectives after nouns. So then there's also a correct sequence for multiple adjectives, and they really suggest, the book suggested that we have our ESL students do no more than two in a sentence. So there's
the quick brown dog, or fox, I mean.
Exactly. Did you want me to read the order that it should go in, or?
Nah, probably not.
That's it. Okay. ESL students should generally be told just to do two adjectives in a row. And then adverbs. What's an adverb? It modifies, and it really modifies as describes a verb, an adjective, or another adverb. There's modifying a verb is like gas prices have risen sharply. Modifying an adjective is like the company reported sharply lower profits, and modifying an adverb is like the gas prices have risen very sharply. What questions does an adverb answer? How, when, where, how often, and how much? And I use that a lot. I mean, to try to figure out that's going to help me a lot on that.
Yeah.
Let's see. Some common ESL errors are lack of adverb ending, like he plays the violin very beautiful, misplacement of adverbs, I like very much this food, and wrong adverb forms like the professor explained the lesson detailedly. And then all of these different adverbs of manner, tell how something happens, and they usually end in ly, and they occur after the main verb if there's not a direct object, and after a direct object if there is one. Should I be saying all of this, or do you want me to go faster? Okay. Go, keep saying it?
Yeah.
You mean? Okay, good. All right. Common errors. Common errors include placing the adverb of manner between the verb and the direct object. Adverbs of frequency include always, usually, often, sometimes, seldom, rarely, and never. In general, adverbs of frequency, they come before main verbs, but after be modals and auxiliary verbs. Common errors are misplacing the adverb of frequency. And then there are also adverbs of degree that include almost, hardly, extremely, and very. They are usually placed before an adjective or adverb or before the main verb. And the common errors here are misplacing the adverb of degree. Though not an error, a common ESL problem is also overuse of very. I'm guilty of that one. And I'm not, well, I was, but instead of other adverbs of degree. Adverbs of place tell where, like here, there, like in Japan or on the floor. And they either occur at the beginning or near the end of a sentence. And then there's adverbs of time, now, yesterday, or phrases like at night or in 1999. And they're usually either at the beginning or at the end of a sentence too. So when there is an adverb of place and an adverb of time in the sentence, place comes before time, and I like how the book said P comes before T, so that's the way you remember that one.
Right.
So I'm glad those are in there to help me. Those drive me crazy.
So I did transcribe. I left out his disfluencies because I didn't see any point in writing and or like or whatever. I just kind of kept to the guts of what he said. And I thought maybe we could include the transcription in the notes, just because I think this is not the easiest sample in the world to listen to. Okay. Even though I know him and I was there and I'm the one that transcribed it, I still had to listen to it about 10 times. And it's only 55 seconds, so.
Not a problem. I'll put that in there.
What's that?
Not a problem. Well, we'll make sure those are the transcriptions in there.
One of the things that I love about him is that he uses E a lot instead of and. And I just love it. I mean, he does also use and, but I love it when he uses E because I'm like, oh, you're keeping that. So.
Gardner last year who did that as well.
I wondered if okay, one thing that this adverb thing where it says the adverbs of place tell where, like on the floor, like to me that's a prepositional phrase, but I guess it functions as an adverb. Is that what you guys understand? Like,
yeah, I think there's a lot that was a little bit confusing this week about adverbs, like you said, prepositional phrases, and then even, as we said, the articles, being labeled as adjectives. And I know even in the reading it said in the English language, we teach those separately. We learn them as separate parts of speech or what have you. And now, like, having this all blurred together, I'm like, I don't know how I feel about this. These are just articles. These are just pronouns. We already discussed this last week, and the fact that those are like possessive adjectives, like that throws me off. I get that it is describing, this is my couch, right? But it's Stephanie's couch, so I'm not using Stephanie, I'm using my, you know what I mean? And so you know, it's all kind of blurring together right now, and I'm trying to keep them separate because that's the way I learned. So the fact, you know, just to know, okay, these are adjectives. They are possessive adjectives in the way they are used, and I'm not solely going to look at it as a pronoun, her couch, his bed. So there were a couple things this week where I just had to file them away in my brain and look at it a different way than what I have before.
Didn't the professor, the guy, I forget his name, that we have to watch his weekly?
Jose.
Jose. Didn't he say that adverbs are very difficult for ESL students? Well, they're also difficult for me. I think that adjectives are easier to, well, there's still some that are hard to me, but they're easier for me to identify.
But it's like color, size, texture, you know what I mean? Like they're a little more concrete. And I think adverbs are very abstract. The only thing I remember about learning about adverbs as a kid was if it has ly, but then pretty soon I was circling things that had ly, but not everything that ended with ly, you know, was an adverb.
Right.
But then when I was teaching my own kids, when we were doing a period of homeschooling, the grammar text that we were using used the questions like it does in this book. This part of speech answers the questions, blah, blah, blah. And so we started out with really simple sentences, and this was with diagramming too. You know, he sits, you know, or he eats. And then we would add something like in the morning. And then it was like, what answers the question, when does he eat? In the morning answers that question. You know what I mean? So using the questions really helped me. I learned a lot more about grammar teaching my own kids. And not just because I was teaching them, but because of the way it was taught. I was like, this makes so much sense. Find the answer to the question in the sentence that you're looking at. And then, you know, you can figure it out. I think the difficulty with this sample is that sometimes there's extra words in here that don't belong. And it's like, well, what do we do with that? Did you print it out, or can we look at that together and maybe go through sentence by sentence? And
I've got it on the text. I can pull that up.
Okay.
I've got it on your text too, yes.
All right, I printed it, so I'm writing on it because I have too many screens going here. I've got my split screen on the computer and my phone to the side.
Right.
So let me scroll down on our doc so I can see where we are too. All right.
I am hand writing
I saw that.
I will type later.
Right. So we've done the student background. Do we want to identify the can-dos, or do we want to make notes from the sample first and then go back and identify the can-dos from our notes?
Yeah, I mean, if we kind of discuss the notes and dissect it a little bit, I think that will lend itself to errors, and then we can pull up can-dos and kind of say what we notice about it, if that's okay.
Okay.
That's fine with me, yes, I'd like that.
So he starts out by saying, my brother, from we are getting ready to go to church just fast, which is a very discombobulated sentence. Like if we were going to say it, we would say, my brother and I were getting ready to go to church, probably quickly or something like that.
Right.
Or we're quickly getting ready to go to church, you know?
Right. Or we were getting ready to go to church really fast.
Right. And or quick, like, you're right.
So maybe we should, I don't know, instead of just, he should be using the word really.
Really fast.
Because it needs an adverb there, right?
Right. And I feel like he kind of knew that. Like there was a sense, like he wanted to put it in, it just ended up going into the next sentence. He really goes on the la cocina. You know, like, I think he went to the kitchen quickly. I think that's what happened. He really was moving quickly, but he put it in that sentence, you know? He really goes on the la cocina.
So do you think, interesting. Do you think because now looking at it, do you think just fast belongs on the second line? Like just fast, he really goes in the kitchen?
I don't know. I was wondering that, and then I thought, well, it doesn't really. Sometimes English language learners switch things around, and I didn't know where that went. I know that I know some, Spanish speakers that like to use the word like a lot, and even just. So it's because it's like a filler if you can't think of something else, or they get used to it and it becomes habit.
Okay.
So, but he's only in third grade too. So I don't know. I just thought that how you reworded the sentence, like my brother and I were getting ready to go to church quickly or really fast. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I mean, because he was using that to describe how he got ready, right?
Okay. Yeah. That was my sense, was that, the whole family was in a rush and they were trying to, get out of there. But then his brother goes to the kitchen and he gets out the milk and he drinks half of it. And he's sitting here going, "Bloop, bloop, bloop." And I'm like, okay, get on with the story.
I was imagining that.
Yep, that's exactly what he was doing.
The act out was there.
Right.
Uh-huh.
So, are we saying then in the first sentence that just should be really? Because we do use the word just, but what do we use it? Like just right, just before? Is just also an adverb then?
I think just has several meaning. It can be an adjective or an adverb.
So here it's functioning as an adverb, but he needs to pick a different one.
Yeah.
Okay.
One.
Okay. And then the from is a preposition that just is unnecessary.
Yes.
Right.
But it doesn't apply to this week's grammar point, so we're not going to address it.
No.
Yes.
Okay.
And
We
mine,
can't all up in red pen, right? Isn't that what we were told? Mark it all up. We need to
and
ask
mine,
that
mine
again.
is a possessive adjective, right?
I'm sorry, what?
When he says my brother, that's a possessive adjective, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's used correctly.
So he used that correctly.
Yeah. He's not completely incorrect in everything he does. Okay, so the my is correct. The just is incorrect.
Right.
Okay, I'm making a list. My and just. Correct. Incorrect. All right, are we ready to move to the next one?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, he really goes on the La Cocina. He opens the refri, which is refrigerator, if you didn't know.
Yeah, they always say refri. Yeah.
Yeah.
Refri.
He actually said it more like refe.
Oh.
Other kids I've worked with say it more refi, so that's how I wrote it. So, and I know that in Spanish, the in and on, because they're both N, are kind of, they get interchanged in English, but he should have said in the kitchen, not on the kitchen.
And not, he didn't need to use that. I thought that really was an unnecessary, adverb.
I thought so too. I was like, he really goes? Like, did you mean he goes really something else? He goes really quickly? He goes really fast?
Yeah, what is he really fine there?
So would we call that like a misplaced adverb?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, again, I feel like it was still like attached to that just fast, as he's describing how they are getting ready to go to church and going in the kitchen and all of that done quickly. So I think it's still a little bit of an attachment to that, that's spilling over.
Right.
Kind
of that sense of, we got to go, guys.
He goes really, like quick into the kitchen or, but he's just forgetting to place the words correctly in the correct order.
And this is where it gets really easy to just like let this stuff slide, because you get the gist. You know how the book has talked about, we just kind of let things go because, we know what they mean, so we don't correct them because we're all about meaning and content.
Mhm.
In this case, I was all about recording.
Mhm.
Yep.
So, and then this, and he opens, I think that's just a self-correction and it's a verb anyway. So
Okay.
he wouldn't address it. But he might have been starting to say he gets the milk, but then he was like, wait a minute, first he had to open the fridge because then he says he getted milk, which is weird
Right.
because before
Right.
he said he gets. So
He
anyway,
just get it milk. He just,
Right.
meaning that was the only thing, or that he just did it at that very moment. You
Yeah.
know, like I wonder.
I think it was another kind of that fast thing. He
And I
just
was
got it and
Mhm. I was wondering if it was he just got milk, or he only got milk.
I don't think it was
Ah.
only.
Okay.
I think it was still that, that rush. Like he opened the fridge and he got the milk. And I think he doesn't really know how to use just, is I think what we're seeing here.
Mhm.
Is like he's heard it, he's picked it up, but he's not using it correctly.
Mhm.
So that maybe could be a language target. If we could figure out how to use it so that we could teach how to use it.
I guess that could be like some sentence frames or something.
Uh-huh.
You have to try to sit there and think of some good ones.
Because that was one of the things, I was thinking of as far as like skipping to the end where we, do the teaching, is to take this narrative and now put it, work it into writing with, sentence frames or something like that.
Right.
Take this little story that he told where I think the point was that his brother was a pig because he drank half the milk. And then the other point was, I don't even drink milk. I drink water. I'm better.
Yes,
that's why I asked him to retell the story because it was kind of funny.
Is it because your brother's drinking it out of the carton, so you don't want it, or you just don't like milk?
Right. It's like, okay, dude, you can have it. You contaminated the carton.
There's some backwash. Okay.
Right.
I thought it was interesting too that he used that article before half.
Uh-huh.
I was trying to think of my Spanish. I'm like, I don't think that's, I don't think we say that in Spanish. And I even had to ask my dad. And I said, is this a common phrase, or would you just say half a glass? And you would just say, medio vaso de leche, just half a cup. Because that's what I wasn't understanding why he said a half
of it,
a half of water.
And he did it twice.
Well, right. So I was wondering if there was confusion in what half means. Like, was he thinking of it as the gallon, or was he thinking of it as a cup? Or
was he thinking of it as most of it?
Most of it?
I hear adult English.
I don't know.
I hear native English speakers of adults saying a half a cup.
Oh, but we say a half cup, but if we're using of, then we get rid of the
Uh-huh.
So if he's using of, then he needs to not use a.
Mm-hmm.
He drinks half of it. I never see him drinking half of water. Now that one didn't even make sense because we say half of it, half of this, half of that, where we're using, like, we use those determiners.
Mm-hmm.
But with water, we would then insert the. So he needs like an article there.
Half of the water?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So he needs to not be using a, and he needs the there.
Right, exactly.
Or I see him drinking water, zero article, not have anything, then you wouldn't need it.
Say that again, Stephanie.
There's a zero article, right, where there's no article even needed if you were to say, and I'm, drinking water.
Right.
But, some ELLs have, struggle with that zero article, and they're so used to putting.
Right. And that whole count and non-count business on the nouns.
Mm-hmm. Of water. Well, I think in the Spanish language too, they're so, we're so used to putting masculine, feminine articles with things too.
Uh-huh.
Now that I think he knew something was needed there, if it was half.
That's good.
I don't know.
Yeah.
This one this one kept me just focused. I kept trying to figure out what was he trying to, what was the correct phrasing that he really wanted to say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And, I never see him drinking water. I never see him drinking half a cup of water. I never see him drinking. I don't know.
Yeah. It's almost like you need some instruction on.
We need to remove things from it.
Say again.
I don't know if he's missing something, or we need to remove some of the words in his sentence.
Right.
Put something on, take it away. I'm not sure.
Like up until the point where he says he drinks like a half of it, I'm picturing him taking out the paper carton, opening it up and just tipping back. And I mean, he acted that out.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, he drinks like half of it,
Mm-hmm.
And then he's like, I never see him drinking half of water. I mean, maybe they have a pitcher of water, bottled water or something. And he's like, I never see him doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's like, hey, I'm different than my brother. I never drink any milk. I always drink water.
Mm-hmm. And a half is an adjective, isn't it?
Isn't it? Because it's a quantity, right?
I looked it up and it said adjective. I might have gotten, sometimes there are other things, but
no, because
it's
it's quantity, but it's describing a noun. It's describing.
Yeah, because he could just say he drinks it.
Mm-hmm.
But he's having to tell us like how much. It answers the question, how much.
How much, exactly.
So I think he's using half correctly, but it's the articles that he's putting in.
Right. And
or leaving out, like half of the water.
Right. And he's using the adverb never correctly.
And any and always.
Always, yes.
And sometimes.
Yes.
Because at the end I ask him the question, we call it glossing, where we repeat what they say, but we change it a little bit. Oh, you drink all of the water? And he's like, yeah, sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that was appropriate. So he's got like
Mm-hmm.
my, half, never, any, sometimes, oops, always. Forgot that one.
And yes is an adverb too, isn't it? Yes and no are adverbs, I believe.
Really?
Let me look it up again.
I'm
I'll look
like,
it real quick.
I missed that.
Like that wasn't in our reading, so I don't know.
No, I know.
I don't remember this. I guess it's good that this wasn't a super long sample because there's actually a lot going on here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Right.
every sentence, every line of the transcript, except for he just getted milk and he has and he. Well, no, that just is in there. Never mind. I take that back. Every line, there's something.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking, okay, so he has that issue of just, right?
Yeah.
Not probably really knowing the meaning of it and how to use it.
Uh-huh.
Then really,
Mm-hmm.
and what was that last one that we just were talking about?
Oh, yeah, I forgot really.
And then the article.
My.
I would say those are his three issues, right?
Yeah.
That we would, try to problem solve then. Just, the article A, and really.
Yes is an adverb.
Yes is an adverb, huh?
Merriam-Webster dictionary.
Well, how about that?
I know. I was surprised.
Okay, what about
Because I wanted
what
to know,
about
I saw that. I
just?
wanted to know what's that part of speech,
Can you look up just while we're here?
Mm-hmm. I think just is one of those that are kind of tricky. Let's see.
Well, since you went to Merriam-Webster, let's see what Merriam-Webster has to say.
I want to be sure to reference that too.
Oh. Mm-hmm. What part of speech is just?
There's one more piece I think we need to talk about, and it's in the almost the last one where he says, I drink my water, all of it.
Oh, yeah.
It should be, I drink all of my water.
Mm-hmm.
So where does that fall? Because I remember reading about that. It might have been in the nouns and pronouns where they put that, like you have the unnecessary second pronoun, or the unnecessary pronoun because you didn't need it because you said water, but the all of needs to go in front of water.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Because that's an adjective. I drink all of my water. That's, yeah, it goes before the.
Right. Well, is that an error? Did you say that's an error placing the descriptive adverb adjective after the noun? Okay.
Yep.
All right. It says just is an adjective, but just is an adverb. So yeah, just having a basis in or conforming to act or reason, conforming to a standard, like there's all kinds of. Yep, just as an adjective.
An adjective.
Did I say it was an adverb?
Yeah.
So.
Because he says just fast, like we would say, he's just getting the milk, but just is modifying getting the milk.
Right.
Which would make it function as an adverb.
Had just reason. Okay, these are not. Okay, hold on. I don't think this took that one into account. Let me get a different one. I think that some of these places have different.
Gotta love the English language.
Right?
I used to tell my kids, you know what, I'm not, because some of these words, like those wild cult words is what we called them in a phonics program that we had, Saxon phonics. And I said, I don't know why the people who made this one up did, but the spelling, I have no idea. Okay, we'll see. You can keep talking if you'd like.
We are doing adjectives and adverbs. I guess it doesn't really matter.
Right. Okay, yeah. Guided truth, just. Oh,
Katrina?
Oh, I'm sorry. This is just what I mean, or is it kind of like that? It's an adverb.
Okay.
So depending on how it's used then, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Like this is just penalty is an adjective. A just claim, a just reply. But then when you get into.
It depends what it's modifying. Yeah, and those are nouns.
The sun just came out. This is just what I mean. The arrow just missed the mark. He was just a clerk. The weather is just glorious. Then that's an adverb.
I'm just looking at our clock, and it says it's 6 o'clock.
Okay. You better hurry.
Which is probably not good.
Yeah, she didn't want us to go too.
So just fast and just getted milk. We'll focus on that. We'll focus on the half water, not using the article or putting in anything. Also, the misplacement of the adjective after the noun for the all of it. Right? And what's the other one I'm missing?
Really?
And the really. He really goes fat. Right.
Yeah.
He just, okay. So then do we want to now quickly look at the we to can do's to see where he falls and then what our next steps would be? What are a couple of things that we would do to help support him?
Yep. So
we're looking under, you said maybe speaking for the can do's, but then looking at maybe reading and writing for our instructional next steps, Katrina?
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Yep. So he's definitely the level 3 under recount for speaking, stating information from personal experiences.
Right.
Right.
Level 4 says describing situations and events from school and community. He wasn't doing that. He didn't give us temporal transitions like before, after.
Right.
At level 4. So I would put him at a 3.
Right.
For speaking.
Retelling stories, stating information from personal. Yeah, I would agree with you.
I would too.
Speaking.
But I see more supporting him with visuals with the reading and writing. Because I think just talking about it, he's not going to remember. We're going to lose him.
All right.
He's going to, you know, perpetuate his mistakes.
So you like pictures and.
Yeah, like maybe, I don't know, sketch out, you know, like illustrate this story. Like go ahead and take my written transcription and then have him illustrate, you know, each part. Like here we are getting ready for church. Here's my brother going into the kitchen. Then he drinks milk. But using his own sentences.
Right.
I think maybe a side-by-side comparison, you know, like you said, I drink my water, all of it. But in English, we would say, I drink all of my water, and like give him that side-by-side. So
he can see where it should be in the sentence.
Right. And see how they say the same thing, but the word order is different.
I wonder like how you could explicitly teach. I mean, because is that what you would you explicitly teach the rule that that adjective needs to come, you know, before the noun, and maybe do some sort of activity with that, you know, and then look at his story and say, so, you know, you said you drank the water. You know, how much of the water did you drink? Because that word needs to go in front of water, because water is the noun. So where's that word that tells us how much water that is? And then you can put the word where it goes, so he knows this describes the noun.
I like that idea.
Yeah.
One of the tests, like the subtests in the test that he was given, he might have been given the 8-year-old version, which doesn't have this, but the 9 to 21-year-old version has, it's a sentence assembly task. And so what they do is they have like some rectangles, and the rectangles have like different parts. Here, I don't know if you can see this. Okay, I don't know if you can see rectangles. I drew them.
Yeah.
Okay. So in each box are chunks of the sentence, not individual words. So like we could do some kind of center or some kind of an activity, even as a group, where we break up sentences like, I drank all of my milk. And so they have those 3 pieces and they have to rearrange it. You know, do we say, my milk, I drank all of? You know, and kind of play with that, because in 3rd grade, these kids are readers, usually, not all of them. But we could take from the narration, make correct sentences, and then make these puzzles. Don't break it into individual words, because that's way too advanced, I think. But put them in the chunks and have them rearrange the chunks. And that could be graphic and sensory and interactive if they're working with a partner or something.
Right.
To build grammatically correct sentences in English. And if we really wanted to have fun with it, we could do them in Spanish. I think like the Spanish equivalent, and show how it's different.
That is a good,
like in Spanish, the adjective comes after the noun. In English, we put it over here.
But I think, wouldn't you say yo tomo todo el agua? You would I think todo would be. I think it would still be all of before, right?
You're asking somebody who wouldn't know.
Yo tomo todo el agua.
Yo tomo todo el agua.
But this little guy will say things to me like, you know, this girl in my class, very nice. And he will do that in English. So I do see like other adjectives coming after. So maybe not this particular sentence, although we could do it and show how In Spanish and English, it is the same or similar.
Right,
Just
right,
a
right.
thought.
No, I think it helps. I mean, if that's the home language and he's used to hearing that, like that's something that's fluent, that he has these models in his everyday life, I think that would make that connection for him, that meaning maybe a bit stronger. And I was even picturing something as simple as flashcards. I mean, you could do chunks, but you could have I drink my water, you know, or I drink water. And then what word could we use to describe from your sentence? All, you know, I drink all of my water.
Right.
You could do it.
Or after.
What's that, Ellen?
And after the chunks, then they could cut it apart and mix it up like you're saying too. And then, or like you said, flashcards.
Right.
To make it more.
And you could start out with a very basic level. I drink. What do you drink? I drink water.
Yeah.
You know, how much of it? I drink all of my water, or all of the water. Or before that, you could say, whose water? I drink my water. How much? I drink half of my water. Where do you drink it? I drink half of my water in the kitchen, you know, or whatever, and just start with sentences and build them.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great idea.
I do too.
I mean, especially to teach that, you know, the parts of speech that are important, you know, and you know, we have that subject, verb, object, you know, pattern so much in our English language. It would be good to start with basic sentences or, I mean, I think that'd be great. I think also bringing the meaning of the pictures, the story that he told to you, and bringing the pictures to add to that. I think that's a good way to kind of bring, you know, correcting his speech, you know, in there.
Yeah. And also it would help us figure out what he meant by half, because we kind of have that question.
Yeah.
You know, so if he drew for us what half meant, we would know if, you know, what he means is brother's just taking a big old swig out of the carton.
Right. Or if he's going to draw a cup and say, oh, it's half a cup. Oh, then we need to say it's half of a cup of water, you know, half a cup of water, you know, like, that would be good. Okay, so we have the picture matching his story, pictures, chunking of sentences, working even with the partner, using the home language to even give an example, and to discuss the similarity between the English language and Spanish, framing the sentence.
And we probably just need to be really explicit with just and really.
Right.
Like give them a lot of examples of how to use those.
Do you think sentence frames would be a good thing for that too, as one of them?
Yeah. I'm trying to think of how I would use just, like, this is just a small problem. You just have to wait a little while. I'm just kidding. You know, it's really cold outside today. What?
The Three Bears, I think Goldilocks. But this was just right.
I just wanted to eat half of the cookie.
Right.
Or half of the cake. Not cookie, cake.
That's right.
I really wanted that milk. You know?
He goes really fast.
Yeah.
You know, I'm putting
I
that
really don't like him.
What, Ellen?
Love my students, right? I mean, you have to modify, and you have to, that would have to come afterwards, right? Whether it's the adjective or whether it's an adverb.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, because what was it? The adverbs can modify an adverb, right? And a verb.
And an adjective.
Yes.
That was tremendously heavy. That was incredibly, right? I mean, very.
Yeah.
And that would come before there.
And with, I mean, he didn't do this, but if we were going to teach very, we would probably do a word wall with different words than very, like tremendously, or, you know, incredibly, like just think of a sentence like that was very helpful. Well, that was incredibly helpful. That was absolutely helpful. That was wonderfully helpful. Probably we would make a word wall for very, and just kind of, this is a word you are not allowed to use. Pick one of these.
Yeah, they have lists of those for writing for kids. I know.
Yeah.
I've had some of those posters. Exactly. Is there another word that you can use for just?
I don't know. Only?
I just want a half of your pizza. I only want half of your pizza.
Yeah.
Well, I said a half.
Just
What?
fast, though.
What, Stephanie?
What's that?
I just wonder what he means when he says just fast.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
That picture would really help, Katrina. Can you get us that for next week?
Right. If he remembers the story.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I think we've got some good stuff, ladies,
Yeah.
for the instruction stuff that can-dos.
Okay. So with the can-dos, you'll just write directly from the WIDA.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. And did you take notes on the background, or do you want me? Oh, I guess I texted you guys the notes on the background.
And I took some notes, so yeah. I'll probably get this done. I'll have it ready for you girls. I'll probably get it done either tonight or during nap time tomorrow. So definitely by like 3 o'clock, it'll be ready to go. So you'll have the Google Doc, and then you could just look and take a peek if I forgot something, if you feel like you need to add something. If not, I'll submit it by 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock.
Okay. So wait till you hear feedback from us, like the stamp of approval.
Yeah, just say that's great, send it, and I'll try. Usually I submit at midnight. So if I submit at 7 o'clock, that will be very exciting.
All right. Do you want me to? Should I go ahead and upload the audio and the transcript?
Yeah.
And then you can just add on to that.
Right. We'll just, that's what we did last week. I had Sophie's thing separate, but Ellen posted the notes. So yeah.
Okay.
We'll just all of our little links there.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right. So next week I will be the grammarian. Ellen.
I'm supposed to bring something. I'm going to try to find something. Okay. If I can't, I'll let you know.
Look through Katrina's samples that she already emailed us. If one works for the topic, if you just read through it and say, oh yeah, there's a ton of errors and whatever the focus is for next week.
Conjunction. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Ellen, Katrina will be the note taker next week.
Okay. So I need to figure out how to do this Hangout, whatever you called it. Hangout. What is it?
Google Hangout on air.
On air. That's what it is.
It's through YouTube. You know what, Katrina? I sent Ellen like a how-to type thing.
Okay.
So I'll forward you that same video. This lady goes nice and slow, walks you through everything. It's really easy. And then you get this YouTube link, and all you do is post the link to our, class site. It's pretty easy.
Okay, cool.
All right, thank you, girls. I hope we all have a much better week this week.
Right.
No sick children, no sick anyone, just a normal.
Right.
All right. Good night.
Okay.